Hey there, colleague. How are you doing? I want to share with you a very simple little teaching trick that I have found helpful to get students to take more seriously a requirement that I have for them and for me. And this requirement is that the bell needs to be our boss. When the bell rings, that's all that we need to shift ourselves into the work of learning or connecting that I have planned for us for the warm up activity. When the bell rings at the end of class, that's all the direction that we need to pack up our things and leave the classroom. So the start of the class is especially important because how we start is pretty predictive of how we're going to go the rest of the lesson. Of course, it's possible for a class that starts well to veer into chaos or non-productivity, but it's just not as likely for a class to do that compared to a class that starts with chaos and the teacher has to kind of rein it in and tamp it down. That's going to be a much more difficult scenario, difficult for the students, all of whom want the class to be enjoyable and productive, believe it or not, and definitely more difficult for me because if I'm starting every class like that, I'm going to get exhausted, demoralized, and frustrated. So there's a lot of things that you do to help your students to get into the work of learning themselves, to self-govern in that way in the beginning weeks of the school year. But at week 6 or 7 of this school year, I began to be dissatisfied with the degree to which we still weren't mastering the start of class, this enjoyable, productive shift from passing time to class time. And so what I did one day on a whim is I just watched the second hand on my watch tick away after the bell had rung. And after the students were set and situated, I just wrote down, okay, 4th hour. That took 45 seconds. I got to tell you guys that I think that you can do better, and I hope that you will tomorrow. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at how long it takes 5th hour to do this in tomorrow's morning classes. I'm going to check them as well. And I just want you to have that information to see if you can improve your personal best as a class. And as I did this, within a couple of days, there's starting to be a marked improvement in the different classes. And all of a sudden, these numbers started to go down, and it wasn't from me cajoling the students or reteaching how to enter the classroom or shaming them. There's none of that. This was not adversarial at all. It was just giving my students information, giving myself information about the speed with which they were making the passing time to class time transition. And I only kept track of it for 3-4 days, a week or so of school. I've since not kept track of it, but I find that the improvements that happened while we kept track of it have been continuing in the days since I did this. So if nothing else, colleagues, this is something to try if you're struggling in a class or two with that transition that I'm talking about in this video. And feel free to let me know in the comments if it is completely not helpful at all. And of course, I'd also like to hear if it is helpful because it did help me. And I've got some tough classes this year. So I was glad to see them have information that they could do something about these slow transitions that we were experiencing by focusing on themselves and their own transition. All right, colleagues, that's all I have for you today. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you next time.